Hey YouTube, this is Marita. Welcome to another edition of the Nurse Lounge, and today we are going to do something yet different for my channel. I have a guest with me. She is my soror and she's also a nurse, and we are going to talk about the difference, our experiences when it comes to PWI, which is where I went, and an HBCU, which is where she went. So if you want to know our experiences, then please stay tuned. Back. And so let me give this disclaimer before we even start this video. This is not a video about which is better. This is not that kind of video at all. At the end of the day, we both went to two different types of institutions, but we are both registered nurses nonetheless. So again, this is not about which is better. You govern yourselves accordingly for what's good for you. And that's pretty much it. If you get accepted at HBCU, then that's where you want to go. That's where you go. If you get accepted at a PWI, and just so you know, PWI means predominantly white institution. That's what we mean when we say PWI, which is where I went. If you want to go there, you go there. You come out with a degree, you pass the boards, you're registered nurses at the end of the day. That's all that matters. So, all right. So we're going to introduce ourselves. As you know, my name is Dr. Marita P now, and I have been a nurse for 16 years. And OB/GYN, well baby nursery, nurse educator, nurse mentor. Those are all my hats that I wear in nursing. And I'm going to have her introduce herself.
I'm Tasha, and I'm a registered nurse. My specialty is plastic and cosmetic surgery, and I've been a nurse for 15 years.
All right, so next we're actually going to talk about what's our story. So, why is it that we chose to come to nursing school in the first place? I'll let her start.
So my story just starts from working at the hospital in the medical clerks department. The medical records department, basically, you are responsible for pulling charts and being responsible to make sure that things are filed appropriately. And I actually had the opportunity to work with two wonderful nurses who would come to our area quite frequently to have charts, and they really inspired me. I was very inspired to see nurses that looked like me, and I pursued nursing at that point and have been here ever since. The rest is history.
Okay, and you all know my story, but the ones who don't, if this is the first time ever seeing me or seeing my videos, I became a nurse not by choice. I became a nurse because I have a degree in psychology, and I realized at the end of that program that it was not going to serve me well in terms of taking care of my girls. At the time, I was 22 years old with two girls, single parents, and getting a degree in psychology. And I realized towards the end of that degree that was not going to cut it in terms of me being off of public assistance. It was not going to cut it in terms of job security. I needed a job where I could take care of the girls, have job security, and basically have a career that I could grow in. And so that's kind of why I chose nursing. I've always loved moms and babies, so I am blessed to be able to go right into OB out of school. So that was a blessing. But again, I didn't choose nursing. It chose me due to life circumstances. All right, so next we're going to talk about our experiences at our prospective institutions. I will not give names in terms of where we went. If you've seen my videos before, you may have heard me speak of them, but today we're not going to do that. We're just going to talk about our experiences. And so I went to a PWI, which is called a predominantly white institution. And when it comes to nursing school at a PWI, it is an experience that, for me, I can't say that I had a bad experience. I had a very good experience. In terms of the supplies that we had, they were very much state-of-the-art. Or I take that back. No, that's not true. When I came to nursing school, I went to nursing school in 2002. We had all the supplies that we needed. We had supplies that we needed. But we did not have we were still using those crank beds back then. And so you had to crank the bed. And so when the supplies, I think it was just because it was outdated. And this is not how PWIs typically are. They're typically where they have state-of-the-art equipment. We had a tornado and the tornado caused a lot of damage, so we ended up getting state-of-the-art equipment. But the time that I went to school, we had crank beds, and I remember going to like the hospital and couldn't figure out how to operate the bed because of the fact that I'm like, where's the crank at? Because that's what we learned off of. But when it came to that, you know, it is what it is. We learned how to operate beds when we got to the hospital. So we had our supplies. We had mannequins and things that we could use. Our faculty was not diverse. So our faculty, I think we only had one African-American instructor. We had one man, so that, you know, men are minorities in nursing. So we had one male instructor and we had one African-American instructor, and that was it. And this school of nursing has probably about 50, maybe not 50, yeah, about 50 faculty in it, because they teach various classes at various levels. And so with that being said, if you have 50 faculty and you only have two minorities, one being a man and one being African American, then that tells you in our situation that that was not a diverse faculty. But the thing is, that's what I was used to, so it wasn't anything different for me. The struggles I had in nursing school, specifically being a PWI, deal with, like, did we have racism issues? I would say I did, but not from a faculty perspective. Our faculty treated us all the same. Even in hindsight, I'm looking back on it, reflecting on it now, and they treated us all the same. I don't really think that anything really happened where I said, you know what, that's because I'm black, that's why she treated me that way. I didn't have that issue at all. Now, when it comes to my peers, there were some definite issues when it came to students. They would do things like, it would be a schedule change or a building change where we had class at. So they'll say, instead of going to this building, our class would be in a certain building every single time we went to class. But it changed due to whatever reason. Well, the minority students would never know of the class change, that we went to another location, to another building. And so all the other students would know, and they would never tell us. Faculty would put it out there, but they put it out there in a way that, like, because it happened like right before class. It would be something like, you know, oh, they had something come up, so we couldn't have class there. So, and we would never know about it. And then it'll be to the issue where we would all show up collectively late. So classes started at 2, and we roll in at 2:20 because of the fact that the new location is across campus. So you done got to the old location or the regular location, and like, okay, so well, it's now in this building, and you have to walk a country mile to get over there. And then we walk in, you know, collectively late, looking unprofessional, looking like, okay, we just, you know, slackers or whatever. But that was the biggest issue, I think I would say, when it comes to the struggles that I had. I don't think I had issues with clinical placement. I had no issues with, we got all the clinical sites that we needed. We didn't have any issues with not getting, you know, funding, shall I say. I think there was just a poorer time anyway in nursing in terms of schools getting money for their programs. But I would have to say that we had, and our faculty were they was not all doctorally prepared, but most of them were doctorally prepared, or they were pushing that. Back in 2004, 2002, 2003, they were pushing back then for, it wasn't mandated, but they were pushing for faculty to become doctorally prepared. And so as a result, we probably had a lot of master prepared faculty at that point in time. And as a reference, you have to be typically at a level higher education wise than what you're teaching. So if you're teaching a BSN program, you have to have a master's degree. Now they're requiring you to have a doctoral degree to teach that level in a university. You have to have a doctoral degree. To do clinicals, you only have to have a master's degree, but to be a full-time faculty person, you have to have a doctoral degree at most institutions. So if you go to a school that they don't have to have that, you know, that may be true, but at most institutions, you have to have now a doctoral degree. So back then, we didn't have as many doctorally prepared faculty, but I feel that the quality of our education was good. I felt like I came out prepared to be a nurse generalist is what they call them. And I think I came out pretty okay when it comes to that. Now, what I was not prepared for is how they mention nurses eat their young, but I wasn't prepared for what that really meant. And so I think that's that's probably not a fault of the school itself. It's just that's growing pains and learning how the profession actually is. So now she went to a HBCU here, well, just yeah, here, and so she's going to share her those some of those same things, her experiences going to a HBCU.
So going to an HBCU was a little bit different. Some of the difficulties or challenges that I faced was that we did not always have the up-to-date equipment. Sometimes we didn't have any equipment at all, depending on the situation, and that was definitely a challenge for me. My situation is a little bit different. I was previously a nurse when I enrolled into my RN program, so I did have some background. And I will say the LPN program that I attended was not a college institution, but it was primarily my counterparts were in that program. And that institution actually had, I would say, better equipment than I had at my university going to an HBCU. So it was a little bit shocking going into a registered nurse program, not having basic equipment at times. So with that, we had to make substitutions. We had to do things a little differently. The other challenge was when I went to my clinical rotation. I was so excited. I remember just thinking, oh my goodness, I'm in my white uniform, I have my hat, the whole bit. It was such an exciting time to be able to get on the floor and to use the title student nurse. And we found out actually a few weeks before our clinicals that we were not allowed, our particular program, our school was not allowed at one of the universities that would have given us really a lot of clinical experience and would have allowed us to see a lot more. And so we were transitioned to another institution, which was fine, ended up being okay. But due to that, we ran into the same issues of not having proper equipment, not seeing how these devices or these machines that we had learned about, how they actually work, because we didn't have that equipment. So that was a challenging time, and it was a little sad. But with that, one of the things that I will say that was a positive is the people in my program, we bonded. And one of the great things about being a part of an HBCU wasn't so much within my nursing program, was being a part of the school or the university in general, because there are certain traditions within the HBCU that are lifelong. And that is what my biggest take was, being a part of that, is knowing that that's a lifelong tradition that I can sort of take with me and hold true to heart.
Okay, so there's your perspectives right there. We both went to two different institutions with, you know, different issues. Did you find that you had any racism issues where you were there?
I wouldn't say there was any direct racism. I would say, I'll take that back. Going into clinical settings, not so much from the school itself. Going into clinical settings, we would sometimes find that the black students, and there was a predominantly black students because this was an HBCU, were often shunned. And when we did have our counterparts who attended our program, they would oftentimes get some of the nicer assignments or get to go in on surgeries or view different things that maybe us other students were interested in doing. So they were given the opportunity first, and we were oftentimes, I felt, shunned or felt like we didn't get the opportunity to do it. So that, I will say, I did experience it from that perspective. Within the institution itself, no.
Okay, and I think I have to agree. Even going to a PWI, so this may be similar, because going to a PWI, there was not as many. Again, you know, the student body was majority Caucasian. So I think we had and back then when I went to school, they took only 80 students per year. So it's not how they accept every semester. It was 80 students per year. And of those 80 students, I want to say only 9 of us were minorities, okay? No matter whether it be black or I think this other one was, that we were just different things, but collectively, not just black, collectively only 9 of us were minorities. And by the time I graduated, probably only 4 or 5 of the 9 actually graduated. And I would have to say when it comes to clinical settings, I don't think so much, I don't know if it was by design that we did this or by default, but I found that when I paired myself with a white student, like I'm like, we go together. So, you know, you're not going, we were paired, so you go together. So therefore, she wasn't gonna get to see something or do something that I didn't get to do because we were going together. So I don't think I ever felt it directly because of the fact that it was only a few of us anyway. It was only five, four, however many I just said, and we were paired with different people. So therefore, we didn't collectively just kind of group ourselves together anyway. Now, I will say this: we didn't group ourselves together, but when it came to class, we then tended to migrate towards one another, and I think that's just the comfort of being close to something that's familiar to you. You would have 80 students in the program, and you have your minority students all sitting in a little section together. It's like that's the whole minority section sitting together. And we didn't cause any problems, and I don't think it was even a conscious thing that we did. I think it was just there was the commonality of being a minority. And I will say that the same way we had to group together, we would group together to just show support to one another. Like, okay, did you hear what page that she said to turn to? Oh, she said to turn to this page. Because if you ask somebody else, they're not going to tell you. They're going to act like they didn't even hear you when you ask the question. So, they would say, hey, and they would help us. And we kind of clicked like that. We stayed close together in that way. Our study groups were even formed the exact same way. We formed study groups where we would all collectively get together and rotate houses and like, okay, who's doing study group today? And even back then for me, I had kids. So I end up gravitating even more so towards the minority people with children because we had something in common. And then it would be, we're like, okay, I got my kids are home, so y'all bring y'all's kids, and we all have to sit there and babysit, watch each other's kids while we're studying. And that's kind of what we had to do. And so we found ways to make it in that program. But like I said, it can be quite difficult. So when you are one of the only few in an institution like that. But again, I have to say, I do feel that my education, and I've ranted and raved about this particular school, how I did feel like I did good quality education. And I will say this, because we kind of touched on it, but we didn't. When we come out of school, a lot of times in our area, in the Middle Tennessee area, shall I say, we typically hire our own. Like, okay, it's kind of like having a family-owned business where, okay, you graduated from said school down the street, and we're gonna hire you at this hospital right here because we take our own. But believe it or not, at certain institutions here, if you have that on your resume, you may or not get a job at certain locations because of the image that it portrays. So at the school I went to, this school's known around the country as being a very good nursing program. Even back then and even till today, students, and I actually teach at the same institution that I went to school at. But at the same time, there were difficulties. So I feel like, sometimes the name of the school that you go to will carry itself in terms of, okay, well, we don't hire people from that school type of thing. And I've actually had that happen for the same institution. It was one student. So I want to impress this upon you as well. When you go to clinicals, and this is at any institution or for any institution, when you go to clinicals and you show your tail and act up, you reflect the school that you go to. And so we've had students who happen to be white who acted up. And because they acted up at a certain school, at a certain clinical site by falling asleep, by doing different things, our school is now banned from going to they won't hire us at their hospital because of that situation. Wow. So, and that's coming from a PWI. So even if you can't act up no matter what school you go to, you have to be mindful and say, okay, you know what? Be on your best behavior because you reflect that school, and that school will carry you, throughout your nursing career. All right, so let's talk about tips. So tips for nursing school success. So if you're going to a HBCU, what tips do you have for those students to navigate themselves and not get so acclimated to the party side of what we know as the HBCU typically do, and stay focused in nursing school? What tips do you have for that?
That's the key, stay focused. You have to remember what you came there for and what your goals are. I think for any student, it's very important that you have your study time and you do not allow anything to really deviate into that or cut into that time. So you really have to stay focused. Nursing school is tough. And it requires a huge commitment. If you are not committed to putting that time aside to focus on your studies, you will not be successful. I think it's okay to have fun and do a lot of the traditional things. For those of you who may be interested in getting into other organizations, such as sororities or fraternities, My advice is to wait. You have plenty of time to do that. Even beyond graduation, you can still become a part of those organizations. So give yourself time to focus, get into your program, get through your program, focus on your future, and have fun, but just stay focused.
And for me, I think the same thing applies, I guess, no matter what school you go to. Stay focused, allow yourself to have study time. And those same sororities and fraternities are at both institutions, PWI and at HBCUs. I would say, though, if you are going to nursing school and you're going to a 4-year program, if you're going to join that organization, do that during your prerequisite. Well, I would say if you're going to do it, if you can't wait till you graduate, I have to become an AKA. I have to become a Delta. I have to become a Sigma Gamma Rho. If I have to become, a Zeta, if that's what you have to do, or if you're trying to be a Q, or you're trying to be a Kappa or Alpha, if you're trying to be any of those things, Iota, then do that during your prerequisite time. Do that at the beginning of your program. Go ahead and get through that process and get the pledging stage, right. Get all that out your system, because you have to be focused for nursing school.
Absolutely.
I have personally seen students who she was pledging for AKA, and again, nothing wrong with any sorority that you want to pledge for, but it took so much of her time and her focus and her energy. She was failing her nursing classes, and there is no empathy in nursing school, no matter which school you go to. Nobody cares. Don't nobody care what you got going on in your life. You have to focus on nursing school. So if you can't do it early and during the prerequisite times, definitely do it after you graduate. But also, if you're going to do it during prerequisite times, make sure those grades still don't suffer, because that GPA is what's going to count to get you into nursing school. So you have to be mindful of that, because nursing school is no joke no matter where you go. It's no joke. It's very difficult it's a process. It's a different way of thinking and learning and applying, and critical thinking skills are a must. And they should be teaching you those things. So if you're spending your time going to parties and spending your time trying to get into the latest organizations and getting acclimated to college life, that transition to college life, then you may have a more difficult time with nursing school. And so you have to think about which is more important, because you can be an AKA or whatever you want to be for the rest of your life, but you don't always have the same opportunities to be a nurse. So, you fail a class one time. I think a lot of schools only give you one time to fail a class. And if you fail OB, as an example, that's it. You get to repeat that, but then you can't fail nothing else. Right. And they're getting stricter, and nursing schools are more competitive now than even when I was coming into nursing school. It was more competitive now. So these are just some tips for you to kind of govern yourselves accordingly, to make sure that you are doing the best you can. As you all know, if you've watched my channel, I'm not a component of C equals RN at all. If you happen to have a class that you suffer in, or not suffer, but you have more difficulty in, and you get a C, that's fine. I got 1 C in nursing school, and that was in adult health too, because of the cardiac chapter. It just took me out. But I only got 1 C in nursing school, because I cannot, we'll kind of speak to this. It has nothing to do with HBCU versus PWI, but you never know what the future you is going to want to do. And when I was getting my bachelor's degree in nursing, I never envisioned getting a doctoral degree. That was never on the radar for me. That was something I never thought about. Master's, I kind of played with that, but I was like, I ain't got time for no doctoral degree. That's just too much work, and I got all these little kids. At the time, I had little girls. So if I didn't prepare today for my future self, meaning I get the best grades I can get today for my future self, because I never knew that I was going to need to have at least a 3.0 to get into these programs, and that they were very competitive to get to those programs. I ended up with a 3.0 in my BSN program, which is not bad. It's a B. It's not bad. But is it competitive? No. Thank God you only had to have a 3.0 to get into the master's program, and the master's program was needing students because it was a new program. I lucked up that year. But some of these programs are very competitive. So I ended up graduating from my master's program with a 3.7. And so, which is actually very good for a master's program. And then I finished my doctoral with a 3.85 something. So, you have to work very hard to be cognizant of what you can and cannot do. And true story, I'm a part of a nursing sorority, or which we both are, part of a nursing sorority. And it's Greek just like all the rest of them, except for it's not the Divine Nine. But the premise of them all are the same. We're just all registered nurses in this particular organization. And with that being said, I had to not be active for about a good year because I had to focus on school. So we're not saying anything that we're not willing to do. I personally had to step back from the organization as much as I love doing the things that we do, because I had to commit my time and attention to my doctoral studies. And now that that's done, I can go back and, reinstate myself and get back fully active into the organization. So anyway, don't get caught up. My whole point is don't get caught up in what goes on at the institutions. You'll be able to party whenever you want to party. You'll be able to join organizations when you want to do that, but you have to sacrifice something for this degree. All right, so future academic goals and career goals. What do you have for that? What do you think you want to do?
You know, we talked about this, Marita, and right now I am in just reflection mode. This is my year of reflection. It's funny because every year I always have, I'm going to go to do this and I'm going to do that and I want to and have this, but my career is really at a point where I'm deciding what direction in plastics I want to go, where I want to hang my hat, so to speak. So I am in the mode of reflection. I am also pursuing and continuing in my education as well. It's a goal that I've had for a very long time, so I'm continuing in that, but mainly just reflection right now.
Okay. And for me, as you all know, I have, or maybe not, but I did finish my doctoral degree in executive leadership on April 28th. So I am now Dr. Marita P. So I'm done, I think, with it's a terminal degree, so I don't know what else I'm gonna get now, but I'm done for now anyway for school. I will take about a year off, I believe, just to mentally rest. My brain is just fried from the studying, the hours, the thought process of school, and I find myself just I don't have the mental ability to even think about anything else at this point in time. So I actually plan on, though, getting certifications here in the next year and a half or so, where I would focus my time on, I think I'm going to do a certification in maternal newborn nursing and as a nurse educator. So I have 2 certifications. But again, I'm not going to even start working on those until a year from now. And I may test for the first time, maybe in December of 2021 or who knows, 2022. I'm not in a hurry. I'm just looking to explore what this new degree is going to do for me, and basically try to move more so out of bedside. I think I will remain PRN at my hospital job. I don't feel like you can be effective or as effective as a instructor, professor, or whatever if you are not still working bedside to some capacity. Because if you're teaching OB in my situation, what good are you if you don't work it? Think about this. This is me all the time. You could be gone from work for 2 weeks and forgot your password. You can't even remember how to get into the computer system.
True.
So you done been gone for 2 weeks and can't remember your password. Imagine what you have lost skill set wise. Imagine, and it will probably come back to you, if you are only gone for a week or, 2 weeks or a month. But if you've been gone for even a year, you're gonna okay, how do I work this Pixis again? Or what's this? What are y'all doing? Healthcare changes all the time. I'll go to work today and come back the very next week, and they're like, we have new policies and new things. I'm like, since when we started doing this? They was like, oh, yesterday. We started this yesterday. You're like, well, what's that? So you have to stay abreast upon the latest by either practicing or going to seminars or conventions or conferences or things like that to keep you abreast on the latest. So I think I plan on taking this time to kind of focus on that and just staying abreast on whatever needs to be, whatever I need to again, elevate that plight of nursing. All right, so thank you for watching this video. Again, this is part of the Nurses Week series. I just wanted to bring something different for you so you would have a great insight as to what our experiences were when it came to my PWI and her HBCU experience. And again, just to reiterate, this is not a which is better type video. I don't believe in that. I believe in you doing what's good for you and your situation. So my situation was one thing, hers was something different, but at the end of the day, we come out to be registered nurses nonetheless. And if you want to contact me, so I have I will have my business email in the comment box below. I will also have my IG information in the box below. Plus, you will see it in the YouTube banner at the very top up here. I also have her information if you have any questions about the fact that, you know, what she does. She's a plastics nurse primarily. So if you want to know the information about that, we will have her IG. You can follow her over there. But until the next time, you all take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.